Welcome back everyone to Game of the Week, a series where each week I'll be taking a niche and unpopular Roblox game and reviewing it. And if I miss a single week of uploading, the series will end. As always, each game that I review will be linked down in the description below, so if you want to play the game, all you have to do is scroll down and click on the first link you see in the description. So without any further dilly-dallying, this week's Game of the Week is... Anchored. Now, Anchored is a game that is very much inspired by other games such as Depth Spelunking or Fleet of Facility or those types of games in that type of category where you have to run around and fix generators or computers or whatever else it may be, and you have to fix a certain number of them, and they all have their own mini games that you got to complete. And once you fix them all, you can escape the level that you're currently on, and you got to do all that while you're evading a big, scary, spooky monster. Now, that gameplay sounds super simple on the surface, but of course it has a couple little extra secrets and unique features that make it special. Because if it didn't, then I probably wouldn't be making a video on it, as you all know. But it does have a couple of features that make the game pretty unique and pretty cool. I mean, for one, it has a big old cast of characters and classes that you can pick from that all have their own unique strengths and weaknesses, and you can buy them all in the lobby and try them out by playing the game and see which one you like the best, and maybe even synergize with other players that have different classes from what you have. Now, all these aforementioned unlockable characters have a bunch of different stats that determine what their strengths and what their weaknesses are, and these stats can range from anything from determining how much HP you have, to determining how much stamina you have, to determining what's your speed or how well you hack the panels that you have to find around the map. Or hell, they can even determine how likely the monsters are to spot you and attack you. And besides all of that, they also all have, well, almost all of them have a special ability that they can use to do something really quirky and cool to either help the team or help themselves. Now, of course, all these different abilities also have a range of things that they can do. Some can either auto-hack a panel for you, some can slow down all the enemies around the map, some can make your teammates go invisible to enemies for a certain period of time, and some can even heal your teammates if they're injured. And there's a million other abilities that I can't even get into in this video, otherwise this video will be like probably an hour long. Now, outside of abilities, you also have trinkets in this game, and trinkets basically also act as abilities, but they're permanent, and you can equip up to 3 of them on your character. And they give you small buffs here and there, like, for example, helping you deal better with certain enemies, or they can help you heal better or sneak around better. They can increase your stats a little bit, and some are a little bit more unique as well, like for example, every time you complete a generator in this game, which is the thing that you gotta do in order to progress the levels, you heal normally. If you have no trinkets, you just heal straight up. But for example, you can equip trinkets that, instead of healing you, either have a different effect or they can heal your teammates. Some of them can help you move around and give you extra mobility options. Some of them can give you more items, which are the random things that you find on the floor throughout this game, which also help you survive. And just general stuff like that. They give you some sort of help or buff or something every time you play. However, none of these trinkets or characters or abilities come for free, as you probably could have guessed. If you want to get them, you have to earn them, and the way you earn them is by doing 2 different things. You usually have to do 2 things in order to be able to unlock a character to actually buy them. First of all, you of course have to have enough Lumos, which are this game's currency, kind of like coins or whatever else you would find in any other game. And yeah, they're just currency with which you can with which you can buy characters and trinkets and all that stuff. But the other thing you have to do is, if you want to unlock certain characters, you have to complete certain achievements, which you can find in the progression tab in this game. There are a total of 33 achievements in the game, and getting them either unlocks nothing and just gives you bragging rights, or it unlocks the ability to purchase certain characters from the shop, which is pretty cool because, some of the characters are actually pretty OP, I'm not gonna lie. So having to do something a little extra for them other than just grinding currency is a pretty cool addition to the game. Getting trinkets, however, is a lot easier because all you have to do in order to get them is, of course, get a certain amount of currency that they require, and you need to either hack a certain amount of panels, or collect a certain amount of items, or survive a certain amount of floors, or beat a certain boss, or whatever else. It's tied to your other statistics that aren't achievements. And I think that's also pretty cool, it forces you to play the game a little bit and get familiar before just outright being able to buy everything. Personally though, my favorite part of this game is all of its lore, because surprisingly, this game actually has a lot of lore. If you go into your progressions tab inside the game and click the lore tab, you will find 4 different types of lore, I guess, that you can explore. You have archives, which are just like little written documents you can read through that explain a little bit of the game and its origins and what the hell is happening and all that good stuff. And you can also see discs, which are essentially the same as the archives, except that you can actually listen to them. They are all voice acted, and you listen to them instead of reading them. Then, after that, you have Sentinels, which, I'll be honest, are probably my least favorites from the whole lore tab of the game. But basically, what the Sentinels tab is whenever you encounter a new enemy in the game, you can go to the Sentinels tab and you can read a little bit about them and what they do and all of that. Except my problem with it is that all of their descriptions, or all the descriptions for all the Sentinels that I've unlocked so far, or all the enemies that I've unlocked so far, are pretty basic and don't really, tell you anything about the enemy. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, but they're a little bit corny. I'm not gonna lie, but the Sentinel documents are just a little bit corny in this game. They don't really tell you anything. They're just some fucking corny rhymes and haikus, I guess, or whatever the hell you want to call this. But I mean, outside of the Sentinel documents, I think the lore is pretty cool. But the last little tab that you have in your lore section of the game is the timeline, which tells you when the game is taking place and when the major events of the game have happened, throughout the years. Which is pretty cool, because in this game we will not have to go full FNAF mode and figure out whether the byte of 87 is actually the byte of 87, or if it's the byte of 83, or if it's the byte of 2053, or whatever the hell. But yeah, all the events are clearly documented here, and they clearly tell you what year they happened during. And yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much all for the lore tab. But yeah, I think the lore of this game is pretty solid. It's maybe a little bit too cryptic, but, the game is only in alpha, so if the developers keep developing, the lore and making changes to it and whatnot, I think it can be pretty interesting, honestly. The only real major thing I'd change about the lore, the only, super urgent, I think the lore definitely has to be developed, just in general, I think everything needs to be changed and shifted around a little bit. But honestly, the only, super major urgent thing that I would change about the lore is all the Sentinel data, because, again, as I mentioned before, reading through the Sentinel documents is an absolute corn fest, bro. It is just so fucking corny, dude. I just can't lie. I think this is the meanest thing I've ever said about a game during one of my Game of the Week episodes, but it really is corny, dude. But that's really the only thing I'd urgently change. The other things can, wait, and, But I think the lore overall is pretty good, and with a little bit of time, it can definitely be pretty fire. Going back to the gameplay, though, I did say it was pretty simple because if you ever played Depth Spelunking or Fleet of Facility or Forsaken or any of those types of games, you will know how to play this as well. But this game does still have one little thing to set its gameplay apart from all those games, which I think is super neat. It could use some changes, and I'll get into that a little bit later in a minute, but it is a pretty cool addition that I definitely appreciate about this game. And the thing that I'm talking about, of course, is boss fights. Every couple of floors in this game, well, not every couple of floors, but every few floors in this game that you complete, you will come across a boss floor where you have to defeat a big bad boss. And for me personally, I've only encountered one of these bosses, so I can't speak on all of them. But the one boss that I encountered was basically like a big triangle pyramid type of guy that was encased in a jar, and he had like lasers that were spinning around that you had to like jump over and stuff. And while you were doing all of that, you had to jump on platforms that led you to little breaker boxes where you had to like play minigames in order to fix them, just like how you would in any other level. But the thing about these breaker boxes is that there was only one minigame on them that you had to complete instead of four. And when you completed those minigames, the breaker boxes would turn green and you would go into the next one. And there were like, I don't know, probably like 10 breaker boxes around the room. But when you completed every single one of them, the little container, I guess, that the boss was in would turn red and you would be able to punch it. And you would have to punch the boss while he's vulnerable, and then hack the panels while he's not vulnerable to make him vulnerable. And you had to like go through that song and dance a couple of times until you finally managed to beat the boss, and then you would be able to move on to the next room. And honestly, I think this whole boss mechanic is really, really, really cool, and I definitely like to see more of it. But the only issue I had with that one boss that I managed to beat is that I think he was a little bit too easy and a little bit too boring, because all he had was just some lasers that were like spinning around the room and weren't really doing much. Like, they were super slow and they were super easy to avoid, and you could even jump over them if you wanted to. And I think it was just really underwhelming. But if the boss was buffed, then I think it could definitely be fun. And who knows, maybe the other bosses in this game are super hard, and I just haven't gotten to them, and I haven't played enough to, figure out their quirkiness, so to speak. But yeah, anyways, that was my only real issue with the boss. I think the one boss that I managed to encounter during my first run of the game was pretty cool, but I do wish it was a little bit harder. But that's about all I have to say on the bosses. Now, while we're on the topic of gameplay, though, I did mention that the gameplay is pretty similar to Fleet of Facility and Forsaken and all those things, but that's a little bit disingenuous, because in Forsaken and Fleet of Facility, every time you come across a generator or a computer, you have to do the exact same minigame over and over and over and over again. On every single computer and every single generator, you have exactly one minigame that you have to do. They never change. But in this game, you have a whole laundry list of different minigames you can possibly encounter when you fix your little breaker boxes around the map. You can play anything from your classic Forsaken minigame where you just like have to connect all the wires together, to having to like fill up bars to a certain level, to having to mimic patterns that are presented to you, to having to play memorization games, to just simply having to click buttons in a certain order. And there's genuinely loads and loads and loads of minigames you can potentially encounter when you're fixing the little breaker boxes. I've probably, like, so far, I've probably encountered maybe like a dozen different minigames, and I probably haven't even seen every single one that could possibly appear when you fix a breaker box. But yeah, it's pretty insane. There's honestly a lot more minigames than I thought there was gonna be. Because every time I fixed the breaker box, I was like, oh cool, this is the minigame I gotta do. And then I fixed like 5 more breaker boxes that require me to do a completely different thing. And I'm like, oh damn, this game is actually pretty detailed. And every time, right now that I encounter a new type of breaker box, I think surely this is the last new minigame that I will see. And then I and then I fix like 5 more breaker boxes, and I encounter like 2 new minigames that I've never seen before. And it's just super cool. It's just a super cool experience. Like the minigames, the possibilities of all the different minigames that you could come across in this game is just it's just never ending. There's just so many. There's just so many that could possibly pop up on you, and I think that's super cool. But yeah, I mean, with this game's amazing gameplay, a great variety of progression, tons of characters, tons of trinkets, tons of upgrades that you can buy, a bunch of different achievements that you can get, pretty solid lore, and just overall greatness in pretty much all aspects of gameplay, I think this game truly deserves a Game of the Week title. I hope all of you guys go and play it. Again, the link is down in the description below. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say. Go play the game, enjoy yourself a little bit, and see you next Wednesday. Goodbye, everyone, and see you later.